The power of visual representations and the growing aestheticization of food, an interdisciplinary analysis of Airbnb visual content in Siena, a research and paper by Cristina Capineri and Maria Cristina Addis from the University of Siena, Department of Social, Political and Cognitive Sciences. The paper has been recently published in the journal Digital Geography and Society. This research has been developed in the framework of a national research project funded by the Ministry of University and Research on the topic of short-term city, digital platforms and spatial justice. First of all, the context. The context is that of digital platforms. We understand digital platforms as an interface between the space of flows and the space of places, as Manuel Castells defined some time ago. We also believe that platforms have a profound performative power through information in production related to places. In particular, we deal within the realm of Airbnb and with reference to its branding discourse on the value of places, involving a rhetoric of authenticity and uniqueness through the famous catchphrase, living like a local. The paper aims at exploring the role played by visual contents in the process of place touristification and commodification that are initiated and accelerated by online platforms. The analysis addresses the photographs through which Airbnb hosts illustrate and promote their accommodations. We particularly focus on food images as the most fertile terrain for the inquiry by virtue of the density of its aesthetic, social, geographical and cultural meanings constantly evoked by the photos. The data we used for our analysis consist in 3,960 photos uploaded by hosts on the 250 listings appearing on Airbnb from November 2020 to April 2021 in the area of Siena Historical Center and in nearby areas. The photos were collected and uploaded in a database. The methodology is a mixed approach, which is also the real innovative part of this work, since we attempt to reconstruct an interdisciplinary approach developed by the authors, drawing mainly from semiotics, visual studies, and geography in order to fully address the meaning expressed by visual items, that is, the photos, read and analyze images from images by shifting the focus of the question from what an image means or how an individual reacts to the image to how the scopic regime works. We mean by this the perceptive and theoretical device that links together the subject and the object of the vision and regulates their relationships in the production of destination imageries, where here the term imagery refers both to the iconographic archive shared by a community or culture and the outcome of the effects of these images on the imaginative activity of the subjects exposed to them. Our analysis developed along 4 different steps. In the first step, we mapped the photos, which means we collected all the photos and created a database which included several attributes of the photos, like average number of photos per listing, typology of rooms, and so on. The second step consists in the content analysis of each photo, which aimed to identify presence or absence of territorial and cultural assets, such as food, art heritage, landscape, events, and for the purpose of this study, only images containing food and related items were selected in the database. The third step, food photos were extracted, occurrences were calculated, which means how many photos, and labeled with typology of food, such as fruit, meat, cheese, and so on, location and framing of food photos in the accommodation where the food appears, such as in the kitchen, on the balcony, in the bedroom. And in the fourth step, an analysis of semiotic functions of food within the photo galleries, narratives was developed. The analysis in the last step, in step number 4, employs the so-called generative trajectory of meaning, which offers a methodological path for the interpretation of the photos. In particular, we refer to the square of consumer values set up by Flock in the field of marketing and advertising communication. The model has been exploited in order to highlight the role of food in the strategies for the valorization of tourist accommodation. The model identifies 4 ways in which the object is valorized by the subject, and they are practical valorization, which means the object is considered as an instrument with the emphasis on ease of handling or level of comfort. Playful or ludic valorization, where the object is considered in terms of its formal and physical qualities, the pleasure it gives, and its general beauty. In this case, value is attributed to the object not insofar as it is as means of satisfying practical needs, but simply for the pleasure of possessing or using it. Critical valorization, the economical nature of the object is stressed. It is in contrast to playful, but complementary to practical valorization. Finally, utopian valorization, where the advertising story does not focus on the object as such, but on the subject, who will achieve deep inner fulfillment through the union with his or her object of value. It is contrary to the practical and complementary to the playful. The methodological path traced by this model guided the comparative analysis of all the photos included in the photo gallery. And now we will show you the results and findings. Results and findings. First of all, which food? Our analysis showed that the actual images of food in the photo gallery are very repetitive and comprise a limited number of very common ingredients like red wine, fresh fruit, coffee, and condiments like olive oil, salt, and pepper. In general, every one of these items fulfills varied or different semiotic functions, indicating that they play a central part in the more or less conscious advertising strategies expressed by the photos. Firstly, the images of food and associated equipment serve to illustrate the services included in the offer. In this case, the photos have mainly a referential functions. In fact, they show us the food we will find in the apartment, the equipment provided for preparing and eating food, the size and location of places where we can store fresh food, cook meals, wash the dishes and pans we have used. The food that is shown is itself a tool, since it is a condiment or basis for preparation of meals and drinks. This apparently simple visual information is already highly complex and implicates or evokes a myriad of actions: seasoning, cutting, squeezing, toasting, boiling, mixing, pouring into different containers, and so on. So we discover immediately a sort of similarity between home and holiday home, which differentiates the latter from what is offered by hotels. For example, at home, we do the cooking or we get someone to do it for us. However, intense the pleasure of staying there, some part of the list of our activity will be work. That is, we will dedicate our actions to satisfying basic needs. But the photo galleries are not just a collection of single items, but express a unitary discourse aimed at promoting the property. The photographic set and its subsection are organized as true multimedia narratives. We identified in particular three major sequence types. The first, the isometric sequence, which is a series of two or more shots taken from the opposite points of view in order to give a full round view of space. A walking sequence, which is a series of two or more images simulating the physical crossing of space, and an immersion sequence, a series of three or more images showing paths or approach to or distancing from what is contained in the environment. From a semantic point of view, the same function of engaging the viewer into the narrative is fulfilled by glasses of wine, saucepans, or coffee pots on the stove, freshly squeezed fruit juice, showing us the start or the course of the stay. The photo galleries are not just a collection of single items, but express a unitary discourse aimed at promoting the property. The photographic set and its subsections are organized as true multimedia narratives. We identified in particular three different major sequences: isometric sequence, series of photos taken from different points of view in order to give a full view of the space; a walking sequence where the images are simulating the physical crossing of space; and the immersion sequence where the images show paths of approach to or path to distancing from what is contained in the environment. From a semantic point of view, the same function of engaging the viewer into the narrative is fulfilled by glasses of wine, saucepans, or coffee pots on the stove, freshly squeezed fruit juice, showing us the start or the course of the stay. Within the promotional strategies expressed by the analyzed photo galleries, red wine and fresh fruit found imaginaries of tourism and place quite different. First of all, wine. Wine is place and pleasure. As the pictures show, the gaze is both captured by the projecting composition, which seems to extend itself ideally into the space in which the viewer is located, and free to fly beyond the window, the fence, the fields, and disappear towards the horizon. The open window places us in an interior from which the gaze breaks through. The wall, the gate, and the more distant thresholds formed by rows of trees to take in the view in its entirety. The house space is thus revealed as a space of mediation between us and the landscape, a space in which the products of rural economy are fully curated, detached from the continued of practices, habits, and customs, and refined to the point where they become an object of aesthetic consumption. Like wine, fresh fruit is at once a figure of pleasure, anchored in the location by windows, pictures, prints, and views, and figure of what nature connected with the green that we see outside through the windows. Pineapple is a particularly emblematic in this respect, both because it is a tropical fruit and because, like wine and sometimes the patisserie, it moves from one room to another, taking on different meanings according to how it is being used. While it is certainly possible to end a typically Tuscan dinner with tropical fruit, it is highly unlikely that it will be consumed in bed or indeed in the bedroom. Its function, as revealed by the fact that it moves along with the camera, is to introduce an element of life, recalling a diet that is generally natural and healthy, while at the same time introducing an aspectual element of immediate res, where freshness is by definition a fleeting value. Fresh fruit brings life into the room, while signifying good hygiene and constant care of the accommodation. Like wine, the pineapple is a figure of euphoric experience, but in this case the geography that is evoked visually overturns the ideology of authenticity, revealing its innate contradictions and paradoxes. The results of the analysis have proved to be challenging from several points of view. First, the attempt to apply semiotic models to the interpretation of visual context has produced novel insights as regards the representation of the tourist experiences and locations. Second, the values highlighted by the analysis are particularly relevant because they have been distilled from user-generated contents. From this point of view, the photos capitalize the informal knowledge of the producer and become collectors of multiple identities and perception, which highlight the variegated relationships with a certain place by creating imaginaries. The narrative we have identified are engaged in knowledge production processes which are grounded in the set of values and in turn physical place. The main findings that have emerged after the analysis of the visual contents highlights three key issues, that is the dismissal of economic dimensions in favor of aesthetic and playful values, the globalization of food imageries through the fruit and wellness, the stereotyping of place imaginaries, wine and pleasure. The results lead us to observe, in general, a lack of the representation of local food and indeed food as a whole, weakly evoked through settings for a meal that is itself absent, where images of food and of red wine and fresh fruit in particular both fulfill the crucial function of connecting the sense of place and the pleasure of experience, while at the same time showing how artificial this connection is. In conclusion, it is the void at the heart of the representation of food and meals in the corpus of the images defines the lowest common denominator of a tourist who is global and whose nationality, politics, religions, and customs are completely unknown to the seller. The practical valorization as tourist service, which is not dominant but widely present, witnesses the opening to the global tourist market of the platform. The utopian valorization mentioned in the above is grounded in the strict connection between room and house and place, while we could say that the living like a local catchphrase is not represented in the photo gallery that construct the narratives about the experience. Thank you very much.